Have you ever heard about using bleach as a pregnancy test or a ring to predict the gender of your baby? Well, we're going over the most fun old wives' tales about pregnancy, both about pregnancy testing and gender predictions. Stick with me to the end on this because we're going over the most accurate ancient pregnancy testing method and which old wives' tales about gender prediction actually end up being a little bit true. The first thing we'll talk about is the bleach test. And this is an old wives' tale that says if you mix your urine with bleach and it foams or it fizzes, that could be a sign that you're pregnant. I see this one around a lot. I see a lot of women kind of doing little videos on it here and there. But the thing about it is that it's not only inaccurate, but it could be a little bit dangerous as well. When you're mixing urine, which has ammonia in it, and bleach together, it can cause some toxic fumes. So stay away from the bleach test. It is completely inaccurate and also a little bit dangerous. The second pregnancy testing old wives' tale is the toothpaste test. And this involves mixing your urine with some toothpaste, white toothpaste, and seeing if it foams, fizzes, or changes color, usually to some sort of bluish tint. Again, there's no scientific basis that this works, but it's kind of a fun and harmless experiment. Another testing method you might have heard about is the sugar method. In this method, you mix your urine with sugar to see if it dissolves or clumps up. If you mix the urine with sugar and it clumps up, that is supposed to be an indicator of pregnancy. And if it dissolves right away, it's supposed to be an indicator that you're not pregnant. This one is just for fun. There is no scientific basis for this, but again, it's harmless and a little fun. And it can be one of those things that you use it and then you see on the back end, was it true for you? Anecdotally, I can tell you that the sugar test was never correct for me, but I know a lot of women that say the sugar test worked for them. So if you have done this test and it worked for you, let me know down in the comments. The next two are ancient Egyptian pregnancy testing methods, and they're a little wild and out there, but one of them is actually really accurate. Now, there is the onion test, and the onion test was used back in the day of the ancient Egyptians, and they would actually place an onion inside a woman's vagina. And in the morning, if her breath smelled like onions, then it was a sign that she was not pregnant. And if it did not smell like onions, then it was a sign that she was pregnant. The idea was that if the woman was pregnant, that the baby wouldn't allow the onion smell to get to her mouth. Some of the stuff the ancient Egyptians did was really, really crazy. Obviously, there is no scientific basis for this, but this was something that they used in ancient Egyptian times. I definitely would not recommend putting an onion in your vagina. Please don't do it. Just don't do it, okay? Now, ancient Egyptians, yes, crazy, but they did actually give us an accurate way of predicting pregnancy, which was the wheat and the barley pregnancy test. The ancient Egyptian wheat and barley test was performed around the years of 1350 BC. It involved mixing women's urine with both wheat seeds and barley seeds. And it was theorized that if the wheat sprouted a couple of weeks later, then you were pregnant with a girl. But if the barley sprouted a couple of weeks later, you were pregnant with a boy. And if neither seed sprouted, you weren't pregnant at all. Now, interesting thing is that in the 1960s, scientists studied this. They actually found some really interesting things. They found that this testing method predicted pregnancy with up to 70% accuracy, which is really wild considering that none of these other tests have any scientific basis at all. But the ancient Egyptians, they knew a few things. Except for the onion. Please don't put an onion. While the scientists did find that this was accurate up to 70% of the time in predicting whether or not someone was pregnant, it was not accurate at all in predicting the gender of the baby. Obviously, now we have our at-home pregnancy tests that give us a 99% accuracy, and then the most accurate thing is to get your blood drawn at your doctor's office to check your HCG levels. There are a lot of old wives' tales that are all about predicting the gender of a baby, and most of them are fun, but there are some that actually have some scientific data to back them up. A very common old wives' tale has to do with cravings that you have during the pregnancy. This one says that if you crave salty things, you're having a boy, and if you crave sweet things, you're having a girl. Now, there is no scientific evidence that this is true, though anecdotally, I did crave a lot more sweet things when I was pregnant for my daughter, and I craved salty, meaty things when I was pregnant for my boys. Let me know down in the comments if this was true for you or if it was the opposite. Another one you may have heard is the ring test. The ring test is an old wives' tale that says if you put a ring on the end of a string and you hold it over your pregnant belly, that if it swings back and forth, you're having a boy, and if it swings in a circular motion, then you're having a girl. Now, anecdotally, this was wrong more than it was right for me, but other moms have reported that it was right about 50% of the time, which is no more than guesswork would provide you. So there's no scientific basis for this one. But again, it is a little bit fun to do, and you can see on the back end, was the ring test right? Another really common old wives' tale that you probably heard forever and always is about how one is carrying the baby. The myth here is that if you're carrying high, then you're having a girl, and if you're carrying low, then you're having a boy. Anecdotally for me, this was always wrong, and it does turn out that there's no scientific basis for this, and it ends up being right or wrong about 50% of the time. Another one you've probably heard a lot about has to do with the skin changes that can happen in pregnancy. The old wives' tale here is that girls steal your beauty. With this one, it is said that you have more acne and more oily skin if you're having a girl, and then you have clearer skin if you're having a boy. Now for me, I had clearer skin with my daughter and I had more acne with my boys in the beginning. Turns out, again, there's no scientific evidence for this one at all. Skin changes are hormonal and can be very independent woman to woman and pregnancy to pregnancy that have nothing to do with the gender at all. Now, in terms of gender prediction and old wives' tales being true, there is one that actually has some scientific evidence that backs it. In this old wives' tale, it is said that the more nausea and vomiting that you have, the more likely you are to be having a girl. There is some evidence that shows that women who are carrying female babies actually have higher levels of circulating HCG hormone in their blood, and this can contribute to that symptom of having more nausea and vomiting. And there are some studies that have been done that show women who have hyperemesis gravidarum, or severe nausea and vomiting throughout their pregnancy, are 56% more likely to have a girl than to have a boy. Another study done in 2017 showed similar findings that women who had more nausea and vomiting throughout their pregnancy were more likely to have girls than to have boys. For me, I had nausea and vomiting for all of my pregnancies, boys or girls. Well, ladies, hope that video was fun for you, and I hope you learned a little bit about ancient Egypt and how they did some crazy things, but they were also accurate 70% of the time, which is pretty good. See you in the next one. Bye.